It was an interesting experience I had when witnessing the announcement trailer for this game. The sword at the hunter's back screamed Monster Hunter, but everything else looked so different that I just told to myself that this has to be another game entirely. I was so convinced that this franchise was never going to make the leap to a new generation that I was in complete denial. I watched as it demonstrated many elements never seen before in its previous games. Everything so far was telling me that this isn't Monster Hunter. That this franchise that has been so adamant in keeping it safe for over a decade by sticking with the walls it had since its inception was never going to break them, and it was just going to keep changing the wallpaper without any improvements on its foundation. How this huge T-Rex looking creature just chased the character on the screen, destroying everything in its path and just beating the living hell out of him. As the fighting continued, a familiar uninvited guest arrived at the scene. An iconic red wyvern known very well throughout the series crashes the party and takes the T-Rex as its prey. The hunter shoots a flare up in the sky to signal for help. The main theme of this huge franchise that I never believed was ever going to do this starts playing in the background. The main logo is shown on the screen: Monster Hunter World. I audibly gasped at the reveal of what I was denying so viciously. We are finally getting a Monster Hunter game that breaks those walls and embraces its horizons. And as a fan of the series since the PlayStation Portable days, I couldn't be happier about it. Greetings to all of you lovely viewers. My name is Lucar, and I am going to talk about how much I love this beautiful gem of a game. Now, if only it didn't have a 1% chance to drop. Curse that desire sensor. Monster Hunter World has changed a lot of stuff for the better. But before I go into that, let me explain to those of you who have not played or heard of the game what it is, how it works, and a little bit about this franchise's history. So, Monster Hunter is a series of action role-playing games where, as the title quite obviously states, you take the role of a person who hunts monsters. All games in the series have included the option for you to play by yourself or with 3 more friends. You search for monsters, hunt them, get rewarded, craft armor and weapons, repeat. That's the loop you'll constantly be in when playing these games. Each different monster you fight has their own gimmicks, weaknesses, resistances, and behaviors that make them unique to the rest of the bunch. They all drop rewards that you can use to craft armor and weapons based on them. Now, the thing that makes Monster Hunter unique to many other ARPGs is the fact that your character progression isn't based on a level that conveniently increases as you gain experience points. Here, what defines how strong you are the armor and weapons you craft from these monsters. So if you want to fight a stronger monster and succeed, you need to upgrade your armor and weapon to be able to survive and defeat it. In other words, if you change from your endgame gear to the starter one, you're back with the exact same stats you had when starting the game. These are the basic elements you'll find in every mainline Monster Hunter game. This franchise had a rough start in the West compared to the East. The first game launched for the PlayStation 2 in 2004, and while it was really well received in Japan, it wasn't received as well here in the West. It got really mixed opinions, mostly because the game was really complex and provided little to no information to a player on how to play it. Because of this, it made it a pretty intimidating experience for the Western audience to just jump right in and play. Regardless, it still managed to get a nice cult following, which only grew as more games from the series released. After the PlayStation 2 release, we got the PlayStation Portable games, and then the series made their debut on Nintendo consoles with Monster Hunter Tri in 2010. That's right, not 3, Tri. Yes, there is a 3 there, but it's silent, so you just say Tri. They chose to release it for the Wii because supposedly the development costs for the beefier consoles at the time was too expensive. It was then that the series started to get a bit more traction in the West with the release of an improved version of the Wii game called Monster Hunter 3, yes, not Tri, 3, Ultimate, which released on both Wii U and 3DS consoles. It wasn't until Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which released exclusively for the 3DS in 2015, that Capcom considered its Western release a success, boasting over 1 million units sold in the Western market alone. It got really positive reviews praising how easier it was to jump in compared to previous entries thanks to added tutorials and information, which made the learning curve much easier to bear. The game sold around 4.2 million copies worldwide. But still, even with that small success, there was still something missing from the game. Look, I love these series. I have sunk in hundreds of hours into these games because of how fun and addicting they are, but after playing the first one there was always something bugging me about each and every sequel, no matter how much I loved it. Yes, we got monsters, weapons, new features like hunting underwater, then just forgetting about that and just sticking to hunting on land and getting on top of monsters instead. But that was basically it, more content. The amount of quality of life changes were little in each iteration. We still had to keep hunting in an area with 12 or so different zones divided by loading screens. We still had to go through the chore of gathering items, which took forever, and it turned into a nuisance because your pouch didn't have enough space to carry everything you gathered. The need to go to a wiki or downloading an app to get the information you need for everything the game doesn't tell you, or that it does but it's not user friendly enough for you to bother getting it through there, but the constant struggle of having to make different types of armor whether you're using a melee or ranged weapon. The map and health bars taking up a huge portion of the screen due to the low resolution of the consoles you had to play these games on. There was just a lot of things that stayed consistent in every game where nothing was done to improve it, mostly because the developers kept making the games and consoles running with old hardware components, providing very little in performance boost. While the series kept selling and people like me kept loving it and buying more from it, it was stuck. Until it happened. Okay, so let's start with what you can notice at a glance. This game looks beautiful. The graphical leap from PlayStation 2 era graphics to the current one makes this incredibly noticeable. And it's just amazing to look at how far we've gone since then. The locales you'll visit in it are filled with so much lush in every sense of the word. Yes, every sense of the word. The flora you'll find is so colorful and unique for every place you'll visit. One thing in particular that you'll find here that wasn't present in the previous titles is the unique fauna that you'll encounter in each zone. These small creatures bring a lot of life and character to the places you'll explore, and you can even capture them and put them on display on your room. It no longer feels like a backdrop where you'll be fighting monsters, but a living and breathing ecosystem where you have to learn its unique rules in order to effectively hunt these huge creatures you'll be fighting within them. And it's all just a marvel to look at. From an ancient green forest to a colorful underwater looking wonderland to a decrepit land of corpses, the places here just ooze imagination and creativity. But that's enough about me babbling about how amazing all these areas look, because this goes double for the monsters, which are the highlights of this game. The motion capture done has been tweaked so well by its animators that the way the monsters move looks so natural, they look like actual living creatures with their own individual personality. This is only further enhanced when two different monsters encounter each other in the same place and start what's called a turf war, where they start fighting each other with their own unique animations, which are different based on the monsters taking place on it. You can't help but stop fighting when an event like this occurs. It's just so fascinating to look at these huge monsters fight it out and find out which one will end up being the victor. These interactions alone give it a lot of character to the world and definitely makes it feel more real than previous entries. The non-playable characters that you meet in it look great and are full of life. Armor looks nice and shiny, and the weapons look great in motion with their flashy attacks. The customization options for creating your character are surprisingly broad compared to previous entries in the franchise, and you can actually make some really nice looking characters based on other media or just create the silliest looking hunter. You can even customize your cat companion. which is called a palico, and clearly, this is the best feature in the game. No, but seriously, look at them. They're so damn cute and fluffy. I actually managed to make mine look identical to my own cat thanks to the customization options in the game. And all I want to do now is protect her. And have you seen the Poogie? Ah, I just want to hug it, carry it, and take it to the nearest chef to cook it. Cook the Poogie!